Welcome to Earth 2, where superheroes exist and Stranger Things 2 talk is the norm. It's your boy Mo Crosby. This is going to be my spoiler-filled review for Stranger Things 2. It's a lot to talk about. I mean, it's 9 episodes of goodness, so it's a lot to talk about. So sit back, relax, and as always,
welcome to the planet.
Yeah, Stranger Things is upon us, and it's happened, and it was good. I loved everything about Stranger Things 2. And I can't wait to talk about it. So here's my spoiler-filled review for Stranger Things 2. I've said that in the intro, and I'm saying that right now again because I know I don't want you guys to sit back and say, nah, I didn't want to know this. Now you know. This is full spoilers. I'm going into everything that I saw and everything that I feel like talking about. First things first, I'm going to start off with the characters. And we already know the characters that we got, that we got back were Steve, Joyce, Hopper, Mike, Will, Jane or 11, Dustin, and Nancy. And we got pretty much the season 1's characters. We got most of them back except for Barb, our RIP Barb. So we got most of season 1's characters back, but we got some interesting characters in season 2 that we're going to get into. And I really wanted to talk about characters first because I wanted to talk about new characters we got. One of them is Bob. Bob happens to be Joyce's boyfriend. Joyce is Will's mother. So she happened to be Joyce's boyfriend, and he is played by Sean Astin. And I love his portrayal of that character. We're gonna go into why that character is important. We got Max and her brother Billy, and we're gonna go into why those two characters are important in a minute. We got Maury Bowman, an investigator. He was a journalist, I believe, and then he became an investigator later. We're also going to go into why his character is important. And so we got Dr. Sam Owens, and last but not the least, Callie, or number 8. And we're going to go into why her character is super important and super necessary for the season in a little bit. So those are the new characters we got. So we're going to go into them real quick. Let's start with Callie. I thought it was a very interesting way to open the season. That was one of the ways the season opened, was they showed us a different city, a different place, and a different person. And so Callie, who happens to be 11's sister, but before we get to knowing that she's 11's sister, is just a girl who has powers, and her powers are she can she can send images into your mind, or she could project images into people's minds. And so we see them doing something where I thought at first it was a robbery, and they're escaping from the cops, and they go under a tunnel, and she causes the driver, the first car to see an explosion of the tunnel, and he stops, causing a wreck. And he gets out the car, and his buddy's like, why did you stop? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, didn't you see the tunnel blow up? Lo and behold, the tunnel didn't blow up. It was just a projection in his mind. And she unfurls her sleeve, and we see the number 8 on her arm. And so now this brings us to why she's important. Moving forward, the show itself opens up in an arcade. We get to meet our players, the four kids that we grown accustomed to in season 1. Mike, Will, Dustin, and Lucas. They're all running to the arcade to play Dragon's Lair and Dig Dug, and we find out that they're playing these games, and Dustin was the original score leader for this, and he finds out that he's not anymore. And then we get introduced, at this point we don't get introduced to the character, but we know about a character called Mad Max, who we'll get to know and love later down in the season. And he goes and he finds out that he's not the top of this game. They try to find out who Mad Max is. They ended up finding out who Mad Max is, and Mad Max is a girl. And these boys, 4 of them, 2 of them, haven't, with the exception of Mike because 11, 2 of them who don't know how to approach girls, and just really dorky. And so it's just really, at first it becomes a stalking sensation, but they ended up talking to Max, and Max, Lucas and Dustin decide to bring Max into the group. First of all, Mike is against this. I mean, he's against this again because, in my opinion, he wasn't the leader of the group anymore, because in season 1 you saw Mike really take charge and lead the group to finding Will, and he just didn't feel like that anymore. And then there was no 11, so he couldn't impress anyone. He didn't have anyone to show anything to, and so it's just, wow, like he just felt like it wasn't, now the group started to seem more like a democracy, as opposed to in season 1 where it was just Mike taking the lead a bunch of times. So that's conflict within the group. But Will is not done with the Upside Down. As we can tell in the season, is he starts having these episodes, is what they call them at first, and we think, they're just hallucinations, and there's this shadow monster who wants Will, and we find out that later on that the shadow monster doesn't just want Will, like he wants to inhabit Will so he can, he needs a host to come into this world, and Will happened to be the host because Will spent some time in the Upside Down and came back to our world. So it's a bunch of things that happen. I mean, the story is just great going on. Max and her brother, and why they're important is because we get to see another family or another group of kids as opposed to what we've seen. Everyone in our world in Hawkins seems so normal and so well put together as a family. We get to meet Max and Billy, who's like the opposite of it. Max just wants to be a kid, but Billy is just, that's her stepbrother or her older stepbrother. The dad remarried and she brought, it's a blended family type situation, and he wasn't having it. He didn't want it. He didn't want to be responsible for her. He just wanted to do his thing. And that is something where, most kids at that age feel that way, especially if you're 16, 17 year old, 18 year old, you don't want to be responsible for another kid who's apparently 13. Like, you don't want to feel responsible for that kid. You want to be able to do your thing. And so that is Max and Billy's conflict. So there's that conflict there, and then there's a conflict within the team, within the team of guys who's separated now because first of all, you brought a girl without consulting me, is how Will sees this. I'm sorry, it's how Mike sees this, and he's just how can you bring her in, how can you tell her, and then they're keeping her out of certain discussions. Dustin finds a slug that we get in this season. What I love most is we get to see the evolution of a Demogorgon, but they didn't get to the Demogorgon yet. That was the main big bad in season 1, was a Demogorgon. But in this season, the Shadow Monster, or what the Shadow Monster could be, is the big bad. But he has his little army around him, and that's what they call the Demodogs. I think they called him the Mind Flayer, and the reason they called him the Mind Flayer is because so the episodes are very, very great. They're aptly titled, and they make you see into certain things. So the Mind Flayer is, if you play D&D, apparently he's a character who controls people, who acts on a hive network, but he's the main brain, but he controls everyone else through a hive mind. And so it's you kill them, kill the head, the body dies type thing. So it's a bunch of things that they wanted to. Why I mentioned Murray is in this season. He's an investigative journalist. We get to meet him in the beginning of the season where he's talking to Hopper and is telling Hopper that what happened last year wasn't just like people want you not to believe it, but it was something that happened. And he's trying to he's one of in the beginning he was sort of a conspiracy theorist. He had some truths, but then he didn't have the whole story, so he couldn't tell the whole story. And Hopper, who knew the whole story, was like, yo, don't even bother me with this. Go do something else. Don't bother me. I don't need to hear conspiracy theories. He's probably at this point where we meet him, it seems like he's been coming into Hopper a lot and been talking to Hopper a lot. So there's just that tension there. But he moves on to help Barb and Barb's parents. He tries to help Barb's parents try to investigate her missing, her disappearance. And at this point, Barb's parents still think she's missing. She's not dead. So it's he comes in to help them, and they're paying him, and they're running out of money. They're selling their house, and this is where it's important, because this is where Steve and Nancy, they have these dinners with Barb's family, and it's like at this point, Nancy's like, I can't take it anymore. I have to tell. And of course, there is that tension. She's like, they try to pretend, Steve and Nancy try to pretend that everything is a-okay, but we know, as we can see, there's tension there, and it's not all okay with them. And it doesn't, and then it explodes at a point where they go to a party, and she gets drunk, and you know how they say drunk people tell truths, and yeah, she's telling the truth. And that is something where it's like, yo, like, I mean, he pulled, in my opinion, a bitch move where he left at the party drunk, and I thought that was really dumb. No matter how upset you should be, you shouldn't leave someone drunk at a party, especially a woman. But again, it's a high school party. She's drunk, and Will's brother takes her home, as in, because they shared a moment last season. It's gonna be a lot of there's gonna be a lot of stuff with them this season, and we're gonna see, so in this season, we saw our team of 4 get split up a lot more and divided. So, but they end up coming together. But so she ends up with Steve's brother, and he takes her home. I'm sorry, with Will's brother, and he takes her home. Make sure she's in bed and all that good stuff. This all happened on Halloween night. The reason I mentioned Dr. Sam Owens again is the doctor who Will goes to see, who Joyce takes Will to see at whenever he has episodes. And Dr. Sam is supposed to be the opposite of Dr. Brenner that we got last season. Where Dr. Brenner wanted to take over the world, Dr. Sam actually wants to fix things, and he has a weird way of doing, or a weird way of going about it, but he wants to take care of things, and he's trying to help Will and try to understand what's going on with Will. And he's trying to help. He has good intentions, but maybe just the way he's going about it is just wrong, in my opinion. And so I just really liked his character and his character progression. Now we get to the reason I brought up Callie, number 8. So we get an episode, I think it was episode 7, The Lost Sister, where Jane leaves the cabin where she's staying with Hopper, because from this story up to this point, she's been staying in the cabin with Hopper because he's been trying to protect her and take care of her and nurture her. But he's really rough and gruff, around the edges. So she's not seeing what he's doing as protective. She's seeing it again as maybe what Brenner did to her in season 1. And so she's like, yeah, like, this is a prison. I want to go out. I want to go meet my friends. Like, I feel like you're keeping me away from my friends. I want to meet them, and she's, again, a few words, but they have a falling out, which is beautifully done. I mean, she's using her powers. He's trying to scold. Like, imagine trying to scold a girl with powers and she's using them against you. That's something that I thought was really funny. I thought it was a funny but really, really visceral fight. They have a fight. She goes over to, she leaves the cabin, and she realizes that she can see people now. Like, with her powers, she can find people. So she goes to find her. She finds her mother. Her mother tells her about the room that she was in. Her mother is a little disheveled, not all the way put together. And then she finds out that her mom's sister, whoever was watching her mother, doesn't have a best interest at heart. She ends up going to go look for her sister. She finds a picture and she goes to go look for her sister. And so she comes in contact with Callie. And so this episode again was really much around that, that interaction. And it was beautiful because we got to see 11 almost go to the dark side, almost kill someone that really didn't really harmed her mother at the behest of Dr. Brennan, but didn't really harm her. So it's like, this is where we're at this point. And then Callie's like already in the dark side, like, yeah, we killed these people that did this to us, or that separated us from our actual parents. We killed them. And oh yeah, Kai Green is in this episode, is in season 2 of Stranger Things, and I was spazzing. I'm like, yo, Kai Green. But yeah, it's a very interesting episode, and it's a very well done and well directed episode. But at the end of it, 11 is like, no, I have to go to my friends, my actual family, people that actually do care about me and don't really want to use me. It's not, she didn't notice that she was being used. She just felt like a part of something after, again, being in this cabin for so long and not being a part of her friends and something. So she ends up going back home and saving them, going back home and rescuing them. And it was a very, very great emotional meeting with her and Mike. But there was an almost meeting with her and Mike where she escaped the cabin the first time, and she went to the school and she went to go look for Mike, and she sees Mike and Max. Max is trying to convince Mike, that I can be a part of the team, that I can be a part of the party. And obviously Mike is not having it because he still harbors feelings for Jane. And she, it's a jealous girlfriend type move. She pulls Max is a skateboarder. She pulls Max's skateboard off her feet. It was a very, very funny episode. So that almost meeting was very, very funny, and I thought it was really cute, but it's almost also a jealous girlfriend moment. So we leave that, and Nancy's still feeling this guilty thing, and she's like, yeah, and I need to help Barb's parents. So she comes up with a plan with Will's brother, and she's like, let's do this. Let's trick Hawkins into bringing us into their lab and them admitting to what they did. And it worked. I didn't see that. When it happened, I was like, they're actually getting, don't they know they're being, their phones are being tapped at this point? Don't they know they're being listened to? And it was very like it was very well thought out. I'm sorry, like I was shocked, I was shook, I was like, how in the world did this kids know to do that? And it was really interesting. You know, it was a good way to see that happen, and I thought that was really funny. But you know, they found this proof and they didn't know what to do with it, so they go to Maury Bowman. Mary tells them, why don't you guys instead of, you know, taking it to one person, water it down, you know, send it to a bunch of places, let a bunch of people listen to it as conspiracy. They're gonna put it out anyways, and you guys are gonna get your message across a larger if you water it down, you know, bring it down, you know, it's gonna get across a larger audience. And so he gives them that advice, but then he sees the two of them, Steve's Will's brother and Nancy, and he's like, you know, aren't you guys dating? Isn't that why you guys are here together? And it's like, yeah, no, we're not dating, we're just here together. And it kind of floored me with the way he described them, and he told them, look, you guys know what you need to do, just get to doing it. And it was very funny, like taking advice again. It was just he was hilarious, and I loved him. I hope he comes back for season 3. Now Bob, I think I've neglected to talk about Bob a lot. Bob is a really heavy presence in season 2. He's again Joyce's boyfriend. He happens to talk to Will a lot and try to you know help Will out whenever Will try to involve himself into the family. Of course, Will's older brother doesn't like him as much, but Will kind of he's like according to Will, because again Joyce at this point is super overprotective, and Bob is like, just let him be a kid. He had what he had happen to him last. Again, Bob doesn't really know. No one has told him the truth of anything, so he doesn't understand the gravity of the situation. But he says, yo, just let him be a kid, and that's why Will takes a liking to him. And at one point, he gives Will this advice. He says, next time you see these demons in your dreams, turn around and say to them, go away, leave me alone. And that's what I did when I was a kid, and it happened. And it was probably the wrong advice, because the next time Will goes into the Upside Down, he gets possessed by the Shadow Demon, and the Shadow Monster, or the Mind Flayer, at this point has possessed him. And the Mind Flayer likes things cold as opposed to the heat, and that is exactly how they expelled the Mind Flayer from him. But it was a very tough scene to watch. I really like Noah Schnapp playing Will. Like, I thought, again, we didn't get a lot of Will last season, we got more Mike, but we got Will in this season, and I thought Will was fantastic. If you had to ask me who was my favorite of the party, I would say Will, because he had to. I think it's a tough thing for me when you play possessed and still have to have emotions, because again, when you play possessed, you don't necessarily show emotions. It's usually you're cold, stoic. But he actually played possessed and got to show some emotions while he was possessed. So I loved his portrayal. So again, that's something that I was really excited about. I got to see him play Will, and I was like, okay, go for it. Like, we got a lot of Will this season, and we got Will to a point where we felt bad for him and we were rooting for him, and so at one point we were also rooting against him. This is when he has his final episode. He goes to Hawkins, and Dr. Sam Owens again tries to help him, and he ends up being the spy. This is the name of the episode. He ends up being the spy for the Mind Flayer, and he instead, so as long as the Mind Flayer knows where he is, the Demogorgons and the Demodogs come at him and want to get him. It's just a beautiful season. There's so much I can talk about. I'm gonna be doing a discussion anyhow with a couple of friends in a panel, so we're gonna go into more, but I'm just gonna give you my review. I'm talking about the highlights again. So Eleven and Callie, when they meet, they have like an X-Men Xavier Magneto moment where Callie's like, instead of harnessing, like, use your anger to harness your powers. Like, your powers should come from a place of hate and anger, and that's how you harness them. And so when she goes back home to save them again, to close the gate, that's the reason why Callie's super important, because she helps her get a handle or harness the powers a lot more. And I was like, it looked really good to me. I loved it. We got to see a lot more of her powers this season, 11's, and that was really great. And and so let's get to the romances of the season. So and with Bob, so we'll get to the romances and we'll get back to Bob. And so back to the romances of the season. Again, Steve and Nancy break up. Will's brother comes in and he takes, he gets the girl pretty much. Again, this is what should have happened last season but didn't. Lucas, and Max. That was something at first I didn't see coming, but then I was like, maybe it could happen, maybe it couldn't. That happened, and I thought it was really cute, and it was fun. It was fun to see Lucas winning for the season. Like, he actually won, in my opinion, for the season. Dustin, however, I felt really bad for. He tried to impress Max with Dart, his demo dog that he took care of when it was a larva at one point. And yeah, but it was hard to root for Dustin and D'Artagnan, because he ate Muse. Like, no, I didn't. I hated D'Artagnan as soon as I found out he ate Muse. Muse is Dustin's mother's cat. Dustin was really interesting this season. He also, again, at the age where he's trying to impress women, and we get Max and he's trying to impress her. And back to Bob. Bob is one of the only people that didn't make it into that is not going to make it into season 3. Like, he actually saved the day when he found out what was going on. You saw Bob again. Bob and Joyce went to high school together, and of course he was someone that Joyce probably would never have dated in high school, but he ended up growing up and becoming the lead tech at Hawkins Radio Shack. And yeah, it was very interesting. And when he died, I was actually like really sad. I thought that was one of the saddest deaths. Again, it's not up there with Barb, but it's one of the saddest deaths, because we got to see him and know him and actually like him and root for him. So it was kind of sad for him to die. So am I missing anything? Have I talked about almost everything? Am I missing anything? Yeah, 11 closes the gate. She saves the day. What else? I hope I'm not missing anything. But this was So Steve. So Steve loses his girl and he wants to get her back, but we end up getting a Steve and Dustin team up, and that was one of the better team ups again. So like I said, everyone kind of split off. It was Mike and Will at one point, and Dustin and Lucas and Max. But Lucas and Max kind of had their thing, and then we got Dustin and Steve team up, and I thought that was really good. In my opinion, that was like one of the better team ups of the season. And when everybody kind of gets together, it was a thing where, again, Will, at this point when Elle and Will came together, Will started to take again leadership of the group. Elle and Max are not friends. I'll just let you know that right now. I don't know if they've solved their, if they're gonna solve their problems, because when Elle came in and Max was like, "Hey, I'm Max," and she's like, she walks past her, didn't try to shake her hand. I thought that was, again, she probably misunderstood what was going on. But Stranger Things season 2 was awesome. It was beautiful. I loved everything about it. I loved the new characters. I loved seeing the old characters again. And again, our main cast didn't, nothing happened to them. But I want to know if we get season 3, or when we get season 3, I want to know if what changes, what happens, what changes. Because again, it looked like they won, but at the end of the season, we get a foreshadow into, we get, again, the upside down world, and we see the shadow monster still looking, and it's, he's like watching, and he's not going anywhere. So I want to know what changes, how he comes back, how, who helps. Is Callie gonna come back into season 3? Is Callie gonna come back? Are we gonna get more? Like, what's the big changes? That's what I want to know. I loved it, and I thought there was almost no mistakes in this episode. Yeah, I saw someone wrote somewhere that they were acting off more emotions and it had a lot more horror beats to it. Yeah, there was some jump scares, and most of the jump scares weren't because of the monsters or the beast. It was literally, like, again, this was centered around Halloween, so it was literally people jumping out and scaring you, so yeah, it was pretty cool. I liked it. I really liked the show, and I think it's hit a beat to me. In season 2, we got another level of Stranger Things, and I loved it. So I just want to know what changes. That's what I want to know for season 3. Write down in the comment section what you guys would like to know and what you guys would like to see in season 3. What did you like about my my review? What did you like about my recap? I really enjoyed Stranger Things season 2. I want to know if you guys enjoyed it too. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Again, check Earth 2 out on social media. Earth 2 Commoncast, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We drop in videos as many times as we drop them, but if you haven't subscribed, hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, let them know that if they haven't watched it, let them know this is a spoiler-filled review. If they don't care about spoilers, they can come watch this and then go watch the show. I tried my best to talk about it as best as how I saw things. Let me know if I missed anything. You can always check out Earth 2 on our website, earth2cc.com. Check the website out, hit it, click it, watch the videos there. It's a lot more centralized, so watch those there. And yeah, that's pretty much my Stranger Things review. Don't worry about Monday, because Monday we're still doing Star Trek Discovery, so come check that out. Thursdays we're doing Star Wars Rebels, come check that out. This week our podcast is coming back. A bunch of things are gonna happen. We're gonna be doing our This Week in Comics episode for the podcast, and I'm gonna be dropping the audio for the Marvel's The Runaways. So I'm gonna be dropping the audio for that those interviews that we did at Comic-Con. So a lot of things are gonna be happening this week. So again, I want to thank you guys for watching, for sitting down and watching the video, and I want to thank you guys again for watching every other video that we do. As I always sign out, keep reading, keep watching. It's been your boy Mo Crosby, and as always, go fill your long boxes.